Well, it's great to talk to you, Stefan. I've been a fan of yours since the Daredevil days, and I'll get to that in a little while. But welcome to Derry. It's been an incredible series. I've been fortunate enough to see up until this coming Sunday's episode 7. But what was it that drew you to this role and the world of it? I know you had a little flirtation with Mike Hanlon once upon a time for the
Oh
film.
man, yes I did. But I am very happy I didn't play Mike Hanlon. Not because I wouldn't have wanted to, but being on something for 8 episodes, you get a chance to really, I feel like really explore your character in a different way. Although when it happened, I was hurt. I was hurt. I was devastated for a while. But for me, it's been fantastic. I think Hank was exactly who I needed to play for a lot of different reasons. He's definitely helped me grow, and what I loved is that I think auditioning for Mike helped me understand like Andy more,
Hmm.
just to get to know him on a personal level. And he's such a great person. Him and Barbara, very very loving, very kind people, and really just kind of let you do what you need to do. And if you're going off the reservation, it might bring you back on, in terms of the reins. But yeah, just a great experience.
Oh, that's fantastic. And of course, a big part of this role is obviously the father-daughter dynamic you have with Amanda Christine's character. So to
Yeah.
work with a young co-star like that and to develop that back and forth and to make us buy into them being, father and daughter, what was that like for you and that process together?
Let me ask you a question. Did you buy into it? That's the first question.
100%. Yeah, the two of you
Okay.
are great together.
Yeah. Listen, we started off going to we went to a bowling party. So Andy and Barbara, when we first got there, put together a bowling party with all the kids. So Jovan and I actually went because we had gotten there, and we were the ones that have the kids, and Taylor too, but she didn't come for like a little bit longer. So we got there, and it was just like everybody. And once I realized that, who Amanda was, from that moment, we bowled together. Her mom, Tamara, and her and myself, we were on the same team. And I tried to help her a little bit with her bowling. You know what I mean, like technique. Not saying I'm the best at bowling, but I know a little something, something. And from that moment, I exchanged information with her mom, and we started to slowly but surely build a relationship, and one that was rooted in trust. And it took time to build that trust with Amanda. I call her Amanda, with Amanda, and but I was consistent, and being consistent, she allowed me to enter in her life, and it's one of the best relationships I have. I mean, we talk a lot still within her mom. As a matter of fact, I think they might be still coming out here for Christmas at some point. And yeah, it made it easier because she's such a giving person and a loving little girl. And yeah, she's my little niece for the rest of my life.
Oh, that's so awesome to hear. And,
Yeah.
beyond being a father, obviously Hank goes through a lot. And I thought it was so interesting. Obviously, he would rather go to prison than face the consequences in a town like Derry for having an affair with a married white woman. So to kind of explore those deeper themes and what the world was like in the 60s like that must have been something that really, I guess, excited and you found very interesting with this character.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I believe that there's always something to learn from any character and every character I play. And with this character specifically, Hank goes on a very specific journey, one I've never gone on in life. And he's forced to do things that I've never done. And he's forced to have to cultivate courage in a way that I've never had to cultivate, that courage. And so when I read the story, in a lot of ways, I was scared, because I didn't know if I could. But I take this class with this man named Tony Greco, who, regardless of how you get a role, the question is then what then, right? Now that's when the work begins. And so understanding the dramaturgy, which is like the time period, who was in office, what were the things going on in 1962? What did people value? How do people walk? How do people dress? How do people talk, right? What type of communities did people come from? What did they eat? What was, you know, all these different things. You had Malcolm and Martin. You had a lot of different political affiliations in terms of you had the Kennedys on the rise, right? And so it's understanding those things to start to understand the value and the way in which Hank moves through life, right? And of course, it's an approximation, but he didn't grow up in 2025. He didn't grow up with rap music, right? He grew up with blues. He grew up with jazz, and that alone makes him look different. He didn't grow up where everybody wanted to have the craziest shape up, and you know, you saw it, right? It was a very different thing. And so, as I started to curate and ask a lot of questions and you know then get the clothes and then meet Amanda and then right work with my friend who's a colleague in my class, Latarsha Rose, um, and start to ask questions and be posed questions that maybe I'm not thinking about, and then allow myself to daydream and you know wake up to dreams. Right, all these things are the process that it takes for me to believe that I'm playing somebody and not just playing at the person, but actually living in the person, like living in the skin of the person.
Oh, that's fascinating. And you know what Hank goes through, as I'm not going to spoil anything, but coming into this Sunday's episode, things really intensify. I think, taken to the next level. And of course, he's not being tormented by Pennywise, though. His challenges are a lot more, unfortunately, real world based. So, did that present a very interesting challenge as well, coming into a horror project like this one and not dealing with the monsters as such, but more like the real life monsters?
Well, you know, it's one of those things where off camera he actually has that experience, right? We just don't see it on camera. It's what happens with the bus, right? Because there's a reason why, and I don't know exactly the reason, but there's a reason why Pennywise kept him in Derry. You know, once he leaves Derry and he goes to Shawshank, there's no jurisdiction on the powers of Pennywise. And if Pennywise ultimately wants to eat all the children, you know, me being there and being in the mix for whatever reason is, I think, a reason why he would want to keep me. And so, yes, on camera you don't see it, but he has that experience, that supernatural experience where he is being tormented because he is, you know, he's living in fear. He's living in life and death fear. But you know, young people are very tasty, you know, and so you know, you never know. You never know. Who knows? But you know, for me, what I love is that, you know, listen, thing about humans and you know, is that we have like this thing called imagination. And through imagination, we create these incredible you know, IPs called, you know, Harry Potter and It and you know, all these other books that we've made into movies and television shows, right? And but everything always stems down to the human condition and our imagination. And so I happen to be playing someone who, yes, doesn't necessarily go through the things that a lot of the other people go through, but when you boil it down, we still are dealing with fear
Yeah.
and love and loneliness and the what if and the unknown, right? And I love it because you know I love acting, and for me, I felt like Hank's storyline can be in The Fugitive, it can be in any drama, any thriller, right? Any genre, you can put Hank's storyline anywhere and it works.
Yeah.
And so for me, what I loved is that it came down to my acting, right? I'm not saying anything about anybody else, but it came down to Hank's acting. I mean, you know, my acting and whether or not you believe that Stefan, are going through these things, Hank, right? And that you go on this journey. And if you don't believe it, then I believe a big part of the heart of the story does not work. And so I love that because it forced me to have to really work in a very specific way. So
Yeah.
I honestly, I loved it. I loved it. I did because I was like, you know, this is all the work I've done and all in the classes I've been in. This is the work. This is the work. I just got to get to work.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And even if you guys obviously aren't on screen together that much, but to see what Bill has done as Pennywise when he's in that costume and he's tormenting these poor kids.
Yeah.
It must
And
blow
Chris
you
Chalk. I
away.
mean, Chris Chalk has, Chris, I mean, playing Dick has
Hmm.
these superpowers.
Yeah.
Thank God we have him on our side, right? Or I don't know, is he on our side? But yeah, it's cool to play in that type of world. I think I had a ball.
Yeah, and then on a lighter note, of course, you're playing Hank, who owns a theater. He's got a real love of film, and there's a great scene coming up with between Hank and Rich, where he interrogates him about what some of his favorite movies are. That must have been a fun thing to play with as well as
Oh, you
that.
mean you did my will?
Yes, sorry, Will. Yeah,
Yes, 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 yes. Well, have you watched it yet?
I have. I watched episode 7.
Oh,
Yes.
you okay? So you watched
Yeah.
episode 7, you haven't watched episode 8.
No, not yet. No, I've
Okay.
seen
Oh
it.
man. Yeah. I love, you know what? I love that Brad and Jason, the showrunners, wrote these, beautiful, beautiful scenes. And and I felt like Hank needed that because besides episode 1, you really don't see Hank being a father. And Hank has to be a father. Hank's a father. And not just that, everything he's doing is to get back to his daughter,
Yeah.
right? And so it's not just the getting back. He's still, once he gets back, then what is he? He's still in relation to her, his father. I'm her daddy. And so just to then, he's heard about Will through Charlotte, but he never met Will because he started school when he was already in jail.
Mm.
And so to now see him for the first time and but then smell that he likes his daughter, right? Which is like, oh shit! Now I just can't even be with my daughter. Now I got to deal with the fact that this young man is smelling my daughter. So I got to have this in a sense this birds and the bees conversation with him and her at the same time under what's going on in terms of the world. And I think it's a testament to also what the Black community stands for, stood for even at that time, because it reminds me of I had this teacher, Miss Paula Brown, and I remember she was at this time she had cancer and she was dying, and my mom had cancer, and my uncle had terminal cancer, and my mom's the only person that survived. And I remember her being on the phone with me, my teacher in high school, on the phone with me, praying for me and helping me go through this while she's going through that.
Wow.
And that's to me what the community I was raised in. And that's what it means when people actually stand in the gap and stand for each other and love on each other. Hank doesn't have to know who Will is, but Hank knows that Will's connected to him. And it's his responsibility to make sure that he just doesn't uplift his own daughter, but he uplifts him too. And so it reveals so much, I believe, about the Black community and what it meant to have your heroes at that time that didn't leave the community because there was no other place where we could live. So your heroes lived around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jay-Z and Denzel, people like that everybody lived around each other. And so I think it shows how beautiful things can be.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah, wonderful answer. Yeah, thank you so much for that because that's so insightful. And well, as I mentioned, Daredevil a little bit earlier, of course, Blake Tower, another great character, very powerful,
Like,
strong character. Have you heard anything from Marvel about coming back for Daredevil Born Again?
hey,
There's
you never know. I think they're coming back for another season. So,
yeah,
at first I was like, would I go back? I don't know. But I would go back. I would go back. You never know. You never know. I would probably, yeah. I love, listen, working with Deborah Ann and Charlie. As a matter of fact, I just texted Deborah Ann and I had just and Eldon's watching the show. So Eldon, yeah, that plays Foggy. So he just texted me. And so, we keep in touch. We keep in touch and I see them from time to time, you know, that gave me a huge that changed everything for me. Changed everything for me, and I'll always be grateful. And the fact that I was able to go to Luke Cage, and the only reason why we didn't continue on Netflix is because Disney created their own streaming platform. I mean, remember, I think the third season we had like a 92%.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, our,
Huge
our
hit.
you know our third season was crazy. It was crazy. So everybody was sad, but I'm so happy that it's doing extremely well on Netflix. I mean, on Disney Plus. Are you enjoying it on Disney Plus?
Oh, it's been great, and it's they very much have got it in line with what Daredevil was and what Luke Cage was and all those other shows
Absolutely,
on Netflix. It's
absolutely.
been great.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean, listen, if they were like come back or Bernthal doing something, I love John. Me and John, we used to rap. We used to be on set doing rap songs. See who can remember the lyrics. That's all we did. So yeah, lovely bunch of people. If they call, I'll definitely go.
Yeah, and the character, obviously, he's got a history with She-Hulk and the Winter Soldier in the comics, and
Absolutely.
so much to explore. And does it surprise you that even now, almost 10 years on from when you were first cast, people like me are asking you about it because they really do connect with that character?
No, I listen, yeah, it makes me feel like I'm doing something right. you know. But no, I mean, listen, all of those Marvel shows were great, but that was the staple. I mean, that was the first one. I was a fan of the first season. That was literally my favorite show that year. The first season when it came out. So then I remember auditioning for it, and the alias was called Ringside.
Ah.
But I read it, and I had at that time my manager Chris. I was like, I know they say it's ringside, but I think this is Daredevil. I was like, I know Daredevil. I watched the whole thing, and he had watched it too. And I was like, man, this is Daredevil. And so shout out to Chris Evans. But yeah, so I loved it, man. So yeah, I was a fan. So yeah, it clearly had a big effect on it, bro. It was a great show, man. Great show.
Yeah, for sure. And
And it was the beginning of like it was also still like the beginning or like the beginning of superhero everything. So,
yes.
you know, that was when everything was going on too. Agents of Shield. I mean, it was a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, fingers crossed you get to come back to that. But, whether it's something like Daredevil that's based on a comic, or obviously Welcome to Derry that's inspired by obviously Stephen King's amazing novel, does that change, how you approach your role? Do you go diving into that source material for inspiration, or do you just talk to the...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I had read the book when I was up for the movie.
Yeah.
So, I have it right, if I could take you, it's right on this bookshelf right there. Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's important because otherwise you don't understand style. And there is a style to comics, and it's not like Mrs. Marvel is very stylistically very different than Daredevil. And so, if you don't understand the values of it, you can't play them the same, or even you can't play it the same way you play The Stand, right? Or Pet Cemetery. There's elements of it, yes, because it's Stephen King, but there's different values because he's created different worlds in all of his, different books, just like Stanley did in all of his different, comic books.
Yeah, for sure. And, like I said, I've been lucky enough to see episode 7. I'm waiting for that episode 8 screener to come through, and things really escalate though with Hank.
Buckle up,
I
buckle
cannot
up.
wait. But, we're going to see things escalate with Hank in episode 7. A lot of unanswered questions about his connection, obviously, with Ingrid. But what are you most excited for fans to see in these final 2 episodes?
I think when a lot of like people were getting, reviewing the first 5 episodes, you need 6, 7, and 8 because it's kind of like I remember back in the day when they would put out new albums, and reviewers couldn't put out reviews the next day because it was a cassette or it was a CD, and it took them time, and they had like a month before they would put out a review because they could listen to it and nobody else had it, clearly. I think, this show is more like that, where you need all 8 episodes to understand the gestalt of where everything's going. And I do think it kind of starts to make a lot more sense when the audience sees everything.
Well, I know
So you know. You
Yeah.
know, because you've even seen episode 7, how things start to kind of come together.
Honestly, I think it's one of the best hours of TV I've seen this year. It's, the whole season has been great, but that episode 7, the stuff, with the in the bar with Pennywise, I don't think people are ready for it.
No, I mean, listen, 7, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8 are crazy. I think, and 8's even better.
Oh man, I'm excited for that. That screening next week. But Stefan, thank you so much. I thought you were fantastic in the series, fantastic in Daredevil and other projects I've seen you in, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this one because Hank's such a great character.
Thank you so much. And listen, we'll be doing this. We'll be rocking and rolling soon. This is just the beginning. All right, Josh.
Awesome. I cannot wait to see what's next. Thank you so much for taking the time.
I appreciate you, brother.
Great to meet you. Thank you.
You too. Take care of
Have a
yourself.
good day.
All
Cheers.
right, you too. Bye bye. Happy holidays to you too.
You too.